Hi, it's Alistair at Electric Scotland. This is my introduction to the Electric Scotland weekly newsletter for May 11th, 2018. So without further ado, here are the news stories I've chosen for you this week. First story is Warships Pay Respect over Islay War Dead Site. This really should be of interest to everyone. I think I carried a story the other week about how so many Americans died in two sinkings of warships in World War I in Islay, and how the islanders did a huge job in looking after the survivors and taking care of the dead there. Really amazing story that I'd never heard of. So this is obviously the warships paying their respect, and they came from Britain, America, France and Germany. So, you should read that. Next story is Donald Trump could address the UK Parliament under peer support. It says Donald Trump could address Parliament despite Commons Speaker John Barrow's opposition. I might add the Speaker is under investigation for bullying. So, who the hell cares about him? He should just go. We should get a better Speaker in. Anyway, I'd like to read that story. New luxury fragrance inspired by whiskey aroma. So, all you females out there, if you want to smell like whiskey, I can't imagine that they're actually going to give you a whiskey smell, but nevertheless, I thought that might be rather an interesting wee article to read. Next story is Exposed and Dependent. Germany desperate to avoid a trade war. As Europe's biggest exporter to the United States, and with more than 1 million German jobs at stake, Germany is desperate to avoid a European Union trade war with the United States. And I might just add that it's my view that the reason Donald Trump hasn't done a major trade war against the EU is he's waiting for Britain to leave the EU with Brexit. After that, he can do anything he likes with the EU because Britain won't be in it. So again, an interesting story there. And I think it also goes to illustrate, we keep looking at Brexit and the EU, but the EU's got just as many problems. Like the next story is, forget Brexit, the EU may be on the brink of collapse. It says Brexit may soon be seen as a mere footnote in an era of massive upheaval. So again, another interesting story there. The one which I thought you might enjoy is 15 famous songs every Scot will know. It says for the typical Scot, there are some songs which don't even require an introduction. In fact, you'll probably be able to recite every last word. Then a good news story is Scottish police dogs and the handlers take top honours. It says Dundee-based PC Peter Gargan and police dog Dale, a 3-year-old German Shepherd, scooped top prize in the 58th National Police Dog Trials. So good on them. Scotland's most powerful microscope unveiled. It's expected to open up new approaches to treating cancer, Alzheimer's and Parkinson's and more. Really interesting technical story that, and you should be aware of it. The next one is how the SNP baby boxed itself into a corner. In August 2017, the SNP Scottish Government introduced its baby box scheme for newborns, but they're coming under criticism for safety. This is an article about that. Then, on the international front, China won't wait. It says China's rise is both unambiguous and unstoppable, whether the West likes it or not. So I think everyone should be interested in that story. Then, a new economy for the Middle East and North Africa. Despite its geopolitical challenges, the economies of the Middle East and North Africa have vast untapped potential in their young, educated and tech-savvy populations. I think it's where I mentioned before that they were talking about a free trade zone in Africa, which could actually be larger than the EU. Potential's fabulous, and that's where we have links to North Africa through the Commonwealth. So I mean, again, you need to be aware of these stories. The next story is, we must back Trump's withdrawal of support from the Iran deal. It says, unsurprisingly, the Iranian nuclear deal was not without its detractors, who claimed that it fell short of guaranteeing that Iran could not develop a nuclear bomb. Then next one I picked was, freeloading Europe unprepared for Trump's America. Old continent can't do much more than watch and wait, it says. And then a bit of a fun one, Meghan Markle waxworks revealed by Tussauds. It's not how you pronounce it. Madame Tussauds has completed its waxwork of soon-to-be royal bride Meghan Markle. They've updated Prince Harry's one as well, apparently. So there's some good pictures of that there. Then the final story is, sell the May and walk away. May is the classic careerist type, someone who all her life wanted to be something rather than do something, and finding when she finally gets there that she lacks the vision necessary for leadership. That is her personal tragedy. It's also Britain's. I've also made that the story of the week, by the way. That's it then. So on to Electric Canadian. I've continued the transaction of the Canadian Society of Civil Engineers. I got up the 1937 volume. Grand Priority of Canada. I got in a copy of their May 2018 newsletter, where Grand Prior Nola Crew has just been at the international meeting in Greece, and some interesting stuff from that meeting. The story is Canada in 1864. This is a handbook for settlers by Henry T. Newton Cheshire. It was printed in 1864. It's kind of interesting, that. Then another one which I thought was great was French Canadian Life and Character, with historical and descriptive sketches of the scenery and life in Quebec, Montreal, Ottawa and surrounding counties, edited by George Monroe Grant. So it's amazing the number of Scots that write these books on Canadian history. Then there's three stories from Conrad Black. One is, an inability to be a leader on pipelines will be the ruin of Justin Trudeau. This one is State of the Resistance. The final one is in defence of our brave and honourable Vice Admiral Mark Norman. In Electric Scotland, we're continuing the Commonwealth of Australia, adding Volume 7, which is January 1809 to June 1813. Banks for Savings in Great Britain and Ireland. It's including a full account of the origin and progress of Mr. Gladstone's finance measures for post office banks, government annuities and government life insurance by William Lewins. Then I have another story which is The Laird of Logan. It's being anecdotes and tales illustrative of the wit and humour of Scotland, edited by John Donald Carrick, William Motherwell and Andrew Henderson. And there's a good bios of each of them in the book, so you can learn more about them there. Then on the legal side, I've got The Law of Creeds in Scotland, it's a treatise. The legal relation of churches in Scotland, established and not established, to their doctrine confessions, by Alexander Taylor Innes. Kind of interesting, that. The life and military character of Major General Scott, together with his views upon the principal moral, social, political topics of the age, with full particulars of the surrender of the castle and city of Veracruz. Then we've got the transactions and journals of proceedings of Dumfriesshire and Galloway Natural History Antiquarian Societies. I found a few copies of this one, so This is the first I'm putting up. There'll be maybe another, I got another 4 I think to put up. Then the Picts, I added a video about the Picts and the latest research, which you can view at this link here. And also, because I've done so much work on pioneering, I thought I might include books on woodworking. So I selected 3 books for you to get started in learning about working with wood. And one of them is actually for schools. So they're fairly simple, but give you some practical guidance there. Then the kind of final story I have for you this week is Prairie Traveller. It's a handbook for overland expeditions with maps, illustrations and itineraries of the principal routes between the Mississippi and the Pacific. It's by Captain Randolph B. Marcy. It gives a lot of guidance about travelling long distance on the prairies. While it's about America, it could equally well be the prairies in Canada or prairies in Russia or elsewhere. So much good advice there. It was actually published in 1861. And as I said, the story this week is Sell the May and Walk Away. So it's actually been written for the Conservative Women. That's a website, it says the philosophy, not the party. But it kind of, there's a huge problem in Britain on Brexit. I mean, we voted to leave, and I think most of us just want to leave and get on with it. But there's so many people trying to keep us in or keep us partly in, and it's just a disaster. And frankly, May's at the heart of it. She ran the worst general election campaign ever and lost her majority, and now works in a minority government with the support of the DUP. And frankly, she's a disaster. She really is. The problem is there doesn't seem to be an obvious replacement for her, otherwise I'm sure she'd have gone by now. But I personally think Jason Rees-Mogg should be the one that might take over. But that's just me. So I thought, well, to give you the context behind that, I thought I'd let you read that wee story. So that's it. So some good reading of the stories and elsewhere. Hope you enjoy it. And I might add, I get an annuity from Just, and in this particular issue that I got in, there's some tips for making retirement income go further. But it can also apply to students and anyone on low incomes. So I thought I might just read you a few of the wee things here. It says, try out supermarket-owned brands. It's always worth trying cheaper alternatives to your favourite weekly shop items. One example could be a bag of oats, which can differ noticeably in price between shop brand and big name. Even if you only end up making a couple of changes, these savings together could make a difference to your weekly shopping bill, especially if you're already buying shop brand basics like sugar and salt. So just a thought there. It's also got a wee thought about shopping for clothes out of season. It said, need a new coat? If you could wait for spring, stock clear outs could net you a 50% plus saving. The next one is to do with veg, fresh veg and fruit. They obviously say whatever is in season is usually cheaper, but they're also advising that you might look at frozen, because often frozen is a much cheaper way of buying fruit and veg. So you should maybe compare the prices there. And also the time of day you shop, they say, is important. For example, at 24-hour supermarkets, they say shopping about 7 p.m. often gets you bargains, because anything to go almost out of date the next day will have yellow stickers saying still fresh or reduced for quick sale, often with big drops in price. And I might add that one of the English co-ops is now doing anything that's just going past its best by date. It's actually reduced to 10 pence, or maybe, I don't know, 20 cents, something like that. But clearly that's way, 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 way cheaper than the normal product is. And they're basically saying they can sell anything like after the Best Buy day. It's the sell by date that's the safety legal clause. But Best Buy, they can sell past the Best Buy date. So that gives you an opportunity to save a lot of money. And to be honest with you, there's a lot that if we could save just a little, a few pounds a week, a few dollars a week, it would make a huge difference to us. So these are good tips. Another one to mention on energy is that moving furniture away from radiators can help make a room more comfortable by letting the warmth circulate better. It says 42% of homes have one or more radiators blocked by furniture. So I thought I'd just kind of add that one in. So, I hope these are a few wee helpful hints for you. And as always, I'll put a link to the Action newsletter where you can get the links to all these stories I've mentioned. Hope you enjoy it, and I'll put a link under this video in the comments. So look forward to hearing from you, and talk to you next week. Cheers.